Hi, everybody. Uh, in this chapter, we'll be covering channels, marketing channels, chapter 17. Sorry, got hung up here. So in this chapter, we're going to discuss, different aspects of marketing channels. It's primarily how products come from sellers to, manufacturers to consumers, customers, consumers slash customers. Different levels in it. What are the issues that have arisen? And also traditionally, what are the issues that normally organizations face? Before heading further, let me make sure it's being recorded. Yes. Thank you. Well, we're gonna in this chapter we're gonna cover primarily what is a channel system, what are the different levels of retailers that come into picture, how do organizations integrate these channels, how do they use them to deliver value slash products and services to consumers, and especially finally we'll close about conflicts. What are the conflicts that happen in a different levels of channel systems? Marketing channels, it's a sets of interdependent organizations, which participate in the process of making a product or a service, specifically value in general. Product and service specifically value in general, available for consumer consumption. Excuse me, I'll just need to take a pause. I have an urgent call. I'm sorry, guys. Just got a call from my doctor's office. Now, taking a step back, marketing channels. There's sets of these interdependent organizations who work to provide, who create a process for making a product or a service in general. I value product or service specifically, or a value in general for consumer use or consumption. Pretty much they're the set of these pathways a product or service follows through, from production to distribution to finally culminating in purchase and consumption at the final end for the final end user. Merchants, they buy the product, they take the title to and sell it to a final consumer. Like those are your intermediaries. Like there are primarily three intermediaries: the merchants, the agents, and the facilitators. The merchants, they buy and take the title to and resell the merchandise. The agents are the brokers and the manufacturers' representatives, sales agents who search for consumers and may negotiate with the retailers on behalf of the producer, right? And facilitators are anyone who kind of helps this process to go through easy. Why do we need marketing channels, right? Before we're heading further into the chapter, one needs to understand that the role of a marketing channel is not has always had a negative connotation, that it increases the cost of the product. But marketing channels have much more value in the whole system. They provide a convenient access of product. They provide a explanatory access of product to the consumer. Not every company can produce and deliver the product to the consumer easily, right? So for example, there could be a small manufacturer who comes up with interesting products somewhere in Tennessee. You know, for the particular small business to distribute or to make the product accessible to consumers all around the country is pretty next to impossible, right? For those people, marketing channels make sense. For larger organizations, if they enter into distribution aspect of it, it kind of deviates from their main focus of making, designing, making, and producing products, right products at the right time in the right way, and so it kind of takes the concentration away. So that's where the marketing channels provide value to this. On a hindsight, on a flip note, these channels do increase the cost, but how badly they increase the cost uh, determines their value in the whole system. But generally speaking, historically, marketing channels have increased the price as much as 200% in some product categories. That is a bad sign, right? But having said that, they do have significant value in the whole system. A marketing channel system, it is a particular set of marketing channels a firm employs, and decisions about it are amongst the most critical ones a management takes, right? What type of marketing system to use, what are the different types of intermediaries to use. They just don't serve markets, they must also make them. In many times the marketing channel system's role shouldn't be like, hey, we just serve, right? We should create a system too. Like Nike is one of them. They created this market for them, just not the created, they just don't serve what consumers want, but they created a market for their own product line. In managing these intermediaries, a firm can decide between two main strategies. Like one is a push strategy, where the manufacturer uses manufacturer sales force, trade promotions, money, and other means to induce these intermediaries to carry, promote, and sell the product. Okay, an example is trade promotions is a critical component. So like an example is a P&G, and a P&G might be giving much more trade promotion to Walmart compared to Target, because Walmart is the biggest monster, like not in a negative note, but it's the biggest organization, biggest reseller. So they might give them more trade promotion to carry their product higher than other competing products. Right? A pull strategy is it uses this advertising, promotion, other forms of communication to persuade consumers to demand the product from internet. So this example is Apple. And Apple creates this pull strategy. They create this advertising from advertising or this consumer knowledge improvement, where consumers are demanding. So they're looking for the new iPhone X everywhere. So Walmart went as far as carrying their product at a discounted price. Okay. Now, I think that's a pull strategy, whereas what P&G is using is a push strategy, or for that matter, even Georgia Pacific, what they use is a push strategy by providing more trade promotions to the resellers. Another aspect at the outlet at much more broader level is the multi-channel marketing. Multi-channel marketing is where an organization uses two or more marketing channels to reach consumer markets in one area. Each channel, it can target different types of buyers, different segments of buyers, and the different needs to deliver. Their role is to primarily deliver the right products to the right places in the right way at the least cost. That's the role of a multi-channel. So one channel might serve upper end consumers, whereas the other channel might serve the lower end consumers, right? Or like for example, cell phone chargers. Cell phone chargers in Best Buy might serve one segment of consumers, whereas cell phone chargers in 7-Eleven might serve different channel of consumers. One is much more planned consumer, whereas 7-Eleven is much more impromptu consumers. Channel conflict, the channel conflict, excessive cost, and insufficient demand. These are the three main problems that can arise from bad channel decisions. Again, channel conflict. If you make a bad multi-channel strategy, then there could be a tremendous conflict that may arise between the channel members. And also it may increase the cost, right? The longer the channel, the longer the multi-channel system, the higher the cost, because each channel member needs to take a margin, right? And insufficient demand may also be the problem, because if you have multiple channels, then each channel will have its own target market. So suddenly your demand of 100 units is being reduced across the channels. So your channel partners may not be so open with you, right? Or may not be so happy about your organization. Research shows that multi-channel customers can be more valuable to marketers, right? So although they're like the customers who market across different channels, they're more valuable in general, but at a specific targeted level, they might be a little bit of a problem. Another aspect is the omni-channel marketing, right? Especially when the companies, the organizations are increasingly using digital distribution strategies, like primarily selling online or through e-merchants. These through their own e-merchants who have their own websites. The omni-channel marketing comes into existence. It is nothing but the multiple channels working seamlessly and match each target customer's preferred way of doing business. Now, a key aspect of making omni-channel marketing the most promising one is to have consistent pricing. An example is the Denon, however you want to pronounce it. They're the home theater receivers, the home audio receivers. Their pricing is pretty consistent across different channels, whether it is brick and mortar, like the Best Buys, or the Walmart, or the online channels. Wherever you go, you have the same pricing. By having so, what you're doing is you're stabilizing the market price and reducing the channel conflict, and yet providing all the channel partners with equal distribution of consumers, or providing all the consumers with different ways of producing them. I think that is a ways of acquiring the product. I think that is a better way to optimize omni-channel than just going all in with different channels and having different pricing where the consumer is totally confused. Especially in this digital era where the consumers can look at different channels for at the tip of their fingers, it becomes next to impossible to actually hide different price points at different channel numbers. And finally, the integrated market channel system. It is one of which the strategies and the tactics of selling through one channel reflect the strategies and tactics of selling through one or more. Meaning, everybody in your channel system, everybody in your channel structure need to follow uniform strategies. In terms of marketing channels and value network, a value network, even before that, a company must first decide the target market and then design supply chain backward from that point, like demand chain planning. First, you see the target market, then you think back, what kind of thing, where do they buy, how do they buy, and then you plan back, and how much do they buy. A company can be viewed as a center of a value network. Like if you're producing a product, you are the center of the value network. Producing, not buying, okay? It is a set of partnerships and alliances that a firm creates, right? So around, in order for you to deliver the product to your consumer, you need these alliances, you need this partnership around to finally deliver the product. The company, the organization, they can estimate whether more money is made upstream or downstream. uh, More money is made upstream or downstream in their planning, such that it can use to, in case it can integrate backward or forward. The, the company is more aware of disturbances anywhere in the supply chain that might change cost, prices. By having a unified value network, a unified distribution system, it can react, it can be aware and react to the disturbances that happens in different points of the channel. It can go online with their business partners to speed up communications. Okay. Digital channel revolution, we just talked about it a few slide ago. The digital channel revolution is much more than just consumers searching for products. A digital channel revolution is like the traditional brick and mortar strategies are pretty much being modified or replaced. The online retail sales, they have been growing like double-digit rate. Like an example is apparel, clothes, accessories, electronics, computer hardware, and as much as recently, even cars are coming into online sales. Just like crazy to think of, but that's the future, right? Consumers are expecting seamless integration between online versus normal. Retailers and manufacturers, they are assembling these massive amounts of this social, mobile, and location information. They can, they can mine to learn about their consumers. In terms of the revolution, how did today's digital revolution came into picture? It's like customers support in-store, online, and phone. An organization need to be able to provide the support at different levels, at different ways. Even online, it's no longer email anymore, right? You go to any website, you always have a chat window. That is your service channel working. And the other things that we discussed in the last few minutes, they pretty much created your service revolution. You can be bought online and return at the store, or return or request online, shipping back. So those are the things, is seamlessly integrating traditional channels with the online channels. That is your new revolution in the digital channels. Channel functions and flows. The role a marketing channel plays, as I mentioned in slide number 1, is like it's just not increasing the cost on a negative note, but it is to provide consumers with an easy access and a faster and a convenient access of the product. Okay, the channel function. There are different functions of a channel member, like as much as from gathering information of potential consumers to disseminative passive communication, and to negotiate agreements, place orders with manufacturers, acquiring funds. These are all different channel member functions. A marketing channel, it performs, as we discussed, it performs the work of moving goods from producer to consumer. It gathers the information, develops and disseminates the communication, negotiates, places orders, and provides storage, arrange financing, and oversee transfer of ownership. So the channel member is pretty much like a intermediary from from the product to the usage. Okay, I remember. Recognize what I'm saying is, I'm not saying company to consumers. A channel member is the person or organization which pretty much takes the product from its inception stage to usage stage, right? That consumer uses. Meaning, just not selling the product is enough, even servicing the product, even making sure that the consumer is happy with the purchase or they're able to use the product is the role of the channel. Okay, at the backward level, it's just not taking the product from the manufacturer is enough. A channel member need to take a role of actually making sure that the manufacturer is able to come up with these ideas, meaning whatever the channel member hears from the marketplace, consumers are, because they are your sales force, right? They become your primary sales force. So they can provide the information back to the organizations and make sure that they produce products that are legible in the marketplace, that are useful in the marketplace, or that are being asked in the marketplace. And this is just an example of different channel functions and how different channel members are being involved in the process. Like, just look at the forklift trucks. It's a B2B product. From a physical flow standpoint, this is how all the channel members are involved. From a title flow, this is how the channel members are involved. Likewise, the payment, the information, the promotion. So these are the different functions that different channel members do for different aspects of the business. There are different levels of channel levels. We will see that in a moment. There are different channels, like zero level channel. They are your direct channels, meaning you produce, you sell. That's it. Okay. 1, 2, 3 level channels, intermediaries. You have a retailer and a wholesaler, or retailer, wholesaler, and agent, somebody. Sorry. And the reverse flow channels. So if you look at this, I'm sorry, taking a step back. A reverse flow channels, it includes manufacturers, redemption centers, community groups, trash collection specialists, recycling centers. They are your reverse flow channels. Okay. So look at this. A consumer marketing channel, for example, zero level, manufacturers directly selling to the consumer. Manufacturer uses a retailer and a consumer. Manufacturer sells it to a wholesaler, which is your distribution, and wholesaler sells it to a retailer sells it to a consumer. Whereas here, a manufacturer sells it to a wholesaler sells it to a jobber, and the jobber sells it to a retailer, and retailer sells it to a consumer. So these are different levels. Whereas on the industrial marketing channels, again, assuming this is like consumer and this is like the manufacturer, this is a manufacturer, that is pretty stable, right? Across all levels. But here you have these industrial distributors, because you don't have any more retailers. They are your distributors selling it to the industrial consumers. And then here, for a 2 level, you may have a manufacturer representative. This is like a sales agent, manufacturer sales agent, and sending it back. And then you have a sales branch, and then you have another representative, or industrial relations, industrial distributors, and finally selling it to industrial customers. So these are different levels of different levels in marketing channels. In terms of channel design, there are different decisions people need in organizations to make. The first step before doing that is before coming up with a particular design, is to analyze consumer needs and wants. Like, consumers, they may choose the channels they prefer based on price. They may choose the channels based on what kind of products they have, convenience, how easy for them to shop. So their own shopping goals also have an effect. Like the economic, is it economic or experiential product or social? Especially this is in consumer segment. And the channel segmentation, it does exist, right? Different consumers buy in different channels or different retailers. The channel segmentation, it does exist, and the marketers need to be aware that which type of consumers buy where and what needs our product is providing them. So depending on how consumer needs are different for different products, or different consumers needs are different for the same product, right? We discussed it during buying behavior and all these other chapters. Similarly, from a channel usage standpoint, different consumers have different channel needs also. Some people, for example, lazy people like me, I don't want to go to a store. I rather buy it online, everything. So I have a different channel need. Whereas some people want to feel the product. They want the experience in a retailing channel with multiple products. For them, that is the experience. For some people, they want different assortment of products, different brands, different types of products of the same brand at the same location. So for them, that's a different channel need. So those things need to be understood. Uh, Channels serve the 5 basic functions. Desired lot size. The number of units a channel permits a typical consumers to purchase on one occasion. The desired lot size, like how many you can buy at the same time. The waiting and delivery timing. The average time consumers have to wait to receive the goods. Like for example, if you buy a washer and dryer from Home Depot, it may take up to 3 weeks, depending on the type of product. So that is your waiting and delivery. So that is the channel, that is the service output channel produces. Spatial convenience. The degree to which the marketing channel makes it easy for consumers to purchase the product variety. What kind of different products, different variety of products a channel member is providing. And finally, service pack. So many times when you buy a product from a retailer, if something breaks down, you rarely call the manufacturer. Instead, you directly call the channel. So that is your service pack it's providing. Now, in terms of establishing objectives and constraints, channel objectives, they vary with product characteristics. Some might be generic, where they can be bought anywhere, but sometimes the product characteristic might be as much as like it needs to be explained. Some products people can buy and just leave. Sometimes you need the product to be explained because you're not aware of all the functions. Okay. Or sometimes it needs much more back-end service where the retailer may not be able to provide. So those things need to be considered before making a particular channel decision. And major alternatives need to be decided too. So meaning, fine, I need a channel member, but what are my options? Like, what are the different ways I can come up with different intermediaries I can use, and how many to use? So going back to this, can I go this way? Can I use one? Can I use two? Or even here, I can further expand, right? Even with the 2 level, I can have a retailer, or I can have multiple retailers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Although it's 2 level, my intensity at the retailer level is high. You understand what I'm saying? So pretty much what I'm saying is 2 level, or just let's pick on 1 level. Manufacturer, retailer. But in this case, it is selective, right? I have only 1 retailer. But here I can have many more. Like the P&G, I can sell it to Walmart, Target, Costco, or Sam's Club, or Schnucks, anywhere. So I have this long number of retailers that sell my product. Although it's 1 level top down, but horizontally, it's pretty long. So those things need to be decided here. And also, what are the responsibilities of each channel member? Like, are they just selling the product, or is their role is even educating the product, like the Best Buy does? They have to educate sometimes how to use a TV, right? In order to educate, they might come up with a service channel in place. So there are three primary types of distribution that are very, very famous. Exclusive distribution, where you limit the number of intermediaries. So you might have only one or two. So this is especially prevalent in some of the, like an example I've shown you, the chapter shows is this. Uh, the number one selling brand of chains are not sold in Lowe's and Home Depot, but it's sold through online or one or so retailer. Likewise, Milwaukee tools, they might be sold in only a few suppliers, Home Depot and few. Likewise, so exclusive distribution, not everybody gets it. And then you have selective distribution. So only some of the intermediaries are willing to carry a particular product. Like, you're choosing only few, or the only few retailers are choosing your product. You cannot get it everywhere, but only a few places. Whereas intensive distribution is everywhere. Like, you search any store, you go to any store, you get intensive. So some generally consumer goods and products, like consumables, they are in this category, non-durables. Manufacturers are constantly, they're constantly tempted to move from exclusive or selective to more intensive distribution to increase coverage and sales. But uh, that is a traditional sense, because a lot more products are in the consumer durable segments, but non-durable segments. Having said that, it depends on the product. You just cannot use every product everywhere. And also understand this: the higher the intensive distribution, repeat, higher the intensive distribution generally means the higher the variance in prices of different products, and lower the perception of selectivity in terms of consumers' mind. Like, there's nothing unique if everybody is getting everywhere and anywhere. The main elements in the relations mix are like the price policy, territorial rights, specific services to perform by each party. These are the things need to be considered to before picking one or more distribution strategies. And some of the criteria for evaluating major channel alternatives is, like, one is economic, right? There are two main criteria. And an economic standpoint, every channel member will produce different levels of sale costs, different levels of sales and costs. Some of the sellers, they try to replace high cost channels with low cost channels, as long as value added per sale is, as long as the value added per sale is sufficient. So these are your low cost per transaction channels, whereas these are your high cost. As you can imagine, the sales force, the higher you have the number of human sales force involved to sell your product, the higher the cost. Like, the insurance, the financial products are in this category, so they have higher cost per transaction. So the value add per sale need to be high. But if you think this is your right area to be in, you may stop here, right? So this is your direct marketing channels, the indirect channels, and direct sales channels. Another is control and adaptive criteria. It using a sales agency can pose a control, because they may be using strategies. The sales agency might be using strategies to increase the sale, but maybe against the policy of the organization or unethical practices. All those come into picture at this stage. Channel management decisions. There are a variety of channel management decisions that people need to consider in, right? Let me make sure I have everything here. Okay. I think I'm missing. channel management decisions. There's just like few aspects that need to be considered after after an organization chooses a channels. They need to train and motivate each of these members, each of the channel members in about their products, and they need to evaluate them, right? And evaluate each channel members about how they are performing. Taking a step back, in terms of training, it, many organizations they have a proper training mechanisms when it comes to how to use their products for the sales agent. So it could be on the shop training. So let's say, for example, somebody is coming up with a brand new electronic product. Like many manufacturers, they actually come to the retail units and they explain how all the salespeople how the product need to be sold, or how consumers can benefit from the product, and what are the different aspects in the product that are critical or different than other. An example is DefTech, or definitive technology speakers. They had to invest a lot more resources to actually come up with the sales strategy to explain the retail channel members like the different aspects of the product, they can be used and whatnot. They need to constantly communicate that intermediaries are crucial partners in a joint effort to satisfy. Because at the end of the day, if the intermediaries, meaning retailers, if they are not able to sell the product in the right manner, it affects everybody's bottom line, right? So they need to create that awareness that this is important for you. So this is important for us. It needs to be important for you too. So we increase your margins. That is a common strategy people use. And channel power comes into picture here. I'll come back to the slide again. So every organization has different levels of power. So sometimes the manufacturers have very, very, I would say, significantly high power. So they can demand down, like the P&G. If they're talking to a small supplier, small retailer, they can demand down, like Schnucks is smaller for P&G. But when it comes higher, Schnucks, P&G talking to Procter & Gamble, talking to Walmart, the channel power differs. There is a lot of stories about those channel conflicts and channel power. Let's not get into it. I'll keep talking about it. But having said that, you need to understand that these are the 5 different types of power that the textbook generally uses. You can read the description on the bottom. Having said that, each organizations will use different levels of this power, or each organization uses different any one of these power mechanisms to control the channel behavior. Okay, meaning every organization, every manufacturer has certain amount of power. It could be lesser or higher, or different types of power. Whether it could be coercive, meaning punitive. If you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. Or reward. If you do this, I'll give you this. Different types of power. Having said that, the thing that this chapter doesn't cover is the power is bidirectional, meaning a manufacturer may have the higher power on the retailer, or vice versa. A retailer might have the higher power on the manufacturer. So, and one last time, a beautiful example is, as I mentioned before, P&G versus Walmart. There was a time that Walmart did not shelf any P&G products for a certain period because they had a channel conflict. So that's the reverse power. Now, in terms of other aspects, evaluating channel members, there has to be a periodic evaluation about intermediaries' performance. Again, it depends on channel power. That's the reason I covered channel power before coming there. The modifying channel design and arrangements, like inevitably they change over time, right? The rules are present policies, present expectations, they change over time. So when you're writing up the channel contracts, these things need to be specified and understood by both parties. Channel modification decisions need to be made based on consumer demands, based on uh, the competition aspects, and more importantly, based on the distribution channel performance. Depending on the performance, you can decide to modify, add a new channel member, or add a new level of the channel. Global channel considerations are probably the most trickier ones, honestly, because international markets, they pose different types of challenges, in, as much as including variations of customer shopping habits. Like the same product that you sell in US may not be sold in US. Developing markets, they become a target for many retailers, like because developed markets are kind of saturated markets or stable markets. You're not seeing too much growth in them. As you can see nowadays, there's so many of these retail channels being shut down in US, brick and mortar. Our total buying power hasn't increased. It hasn't, kind of stabilized, gone down and came back up. But having said that, it's pretty stable. It's not, hasn't gone up. But the developing markets are seeing tremendous growth overall because they are developing. They have scope of growth. Uh, but they come up with a lot of challenges. Like, for example, India. India has very, very complex regulations, poor infrastructure, and expensive real estate, which makes it very, very difficult for retail chains. And especially because of these poor regulations, uh, most international retail chains, they had to partner with local entities to start their own. If you won't believe that, if Walmart has taken more than 10 years of investigation and exploration to get into Indian market, that shows how bad it is, right? Starbucks took close to 8 to 10 years, and finally they opened in very, 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 very few locations. Imagine having a Starbucks of only having two Starbucks in a city of 11.5 million population. That's the, it's not intensive anymore, right? It's very, very exclusive branches. And the the e-commerce marketing practices is something that has changed how we look at channels these days. It has, like, ever since e-commerce came into the foray, and then taken the brick and mortar by its run, like in the mid to late 90s, like the Amazon, if you remember, it took Amazon 3.5 years to actually touch break even, right, to actually make some money. I think the first time they made money was in 2001, if I remember right. So, but now, where is Amazon, the richest guy on the planet right now? The pure click companies, meaning completely online, the brick and click companies, and brick and mortar companies. So these are different versions that have taken the market into a different era altogether. Uh, the pure click companies are those that have launched a website without having any physical presence, any previous existence. An example is a designeraudiovideo.com. This is for audio branches. So they have no brick and mortar presence, nothing. Crutchfield have no brick and mortar presence. All these are your pure click companies. Whereas the brick and click companies, they have the existing companies which added. Example is Best Buy. So e-commerce success is extremely critical uh, to any organization's business right now. There are very, very few purely brick companies remaining. Some uh, brick and mortar companies are using online as a service mechanism, especially in the financial sector. They're using online as a service part of the channel, or called the service channel. You Service channel is one of the channel alternatives, but it is also an ancillary and must condition to any product channel nowadays. For e-commerce to be successful, customer service is critical, because you cannot really go and talk to somebody. Like, quick 24/7 customer service has become extremely critical to e-commerce success. It also is used to improve conversions rate. The firms should take the website fast, simple, and easy to use, because the conversion rates are not that high. To increase customer satisfaction and the value that some value the website provides has become very critical for the overall value delivery perception for the consumers. And another aspect is the m-commerce. So this is something I would say to post 2008. I would call the post iPhone era, where the m-commerce has increased multifold, right? By mid to 2013, the more than half of all online consumers have made a purchase online. You know, nowadays the m-commerce purchases through your phone has accounted for almost as much as like 18 to 23% of all e-commerce transactions. Like many times people are buying through online, but through your phone, right? App purchases are a lot. M-commerce has given rise to a completely new product line per se purely through phones, like completely new product, like the app purchases. If an app company like Game of War, it's called MZ something, when it's being sold for billions of dollars, that shows the power of this M-commerce taken to different level. It Understanding how consumers want to use their smartphones is being critical these days, to understand how the role of advertising, which should fit in the small face, like how the ads need to be smaller to fit in the phone, how the content has to be modified, how the websites need to be modified to fit your phone, as much as how the product needs to look on the phone. All these aspects have become very critical. Geofencing is something that has both pros and cons per se. Pros is promotions for web promotions and also for targeting the right consumer, how many times they're coming, where they're coming, how they're traveling, and what kind of product they bought in the past, and can we send them a message now because they are close by. All these factors come into existence for geofencing. Having said that, it has a lot of privacy issues, right? Like somebody's knowing where you're traveling, so it's kind of bad aspect of it, but from a marketing standpoint, it is super beneficial. The last topic in this chapter, the conflict. So the channel, as I mentioned before, some channel partners have power, right? So think about like two people. If there are two people sitting in a room and they both have need for each other, but if the need is kind of equal, that means nobody has a higher power. But if one person has more to give than the other person, the person who has more to give has higher power. Whenever there is a difference in power between two people, there is a chance of a conflict. I'm not saying there will be a conflict. There is a chance of a conflict. Now, replace the two people with two companies. So when there are two companies where one company has a more thing to give, like, or more value in the relationship, that's a conflict. Am I making sense? So that's the reason when there is a boss and a subordinate, there is always a chance of a conflict because one has a higher power than the other. So channel conflict, it arises when one member's actions prevent another member to achieve its goal. So that's when it arises. When there is a chance, is when there is a gap in power. No matter how well our days are designed and managed, there will always be some conflict. It only because the interests of each business unit, each entity, each person, they do not always need to coincide with others. Right? There are three main types of conflict. There are three main types of horizontal channel conflict, vertical channel conflict, and multi-channel conflict. Horizontal channel conflict is members at the same level, like the Best Buy versus somebody at the same level is fighting with about Samsung TV sales. Vertical channel conflict is the Best Buy is having a fight with Samsung. Okay. The multi-channel exists when the manufacturer has established two or more channels that sell to market. So the manufacturer has a direct selling channel, and the manufacturer is using a channel through a retailer. So when both those channels are fighting, there will be a conflict. So how do we read, you know, specifically what causes this conflict? The first is the goal incompatibility. The manufacturer, they may want to achieve rapid market penetration, whereas the retailers are like, no, wait up. We prefer to work with high margins, and you are not providing us high margins. Unclear roles and rights. Each of them need to have specific rights. What are the boundaries? Where all I can sell, what all I can sell is a kind of limitation. This is especially prevalent in the franchising industry. So if you're setting up a branch about like Edward Jones, right? You need to have this space. You need to have a region, or you're setting up a branch for Dunkin' Donuts. You're buying this franchising. So you are expecting a area, square mileage, where there won't be any other Dunkin' Donuts gonna come. Differences of perception. The manufacturer may be optimistic of short-term economic. They are expecting that they might feel that, hey, next month I might be selling 100,000 more products than last month. So they might be demanding the retailers to actually stock up them. But the retailers, they may not be sure, right? They feel like they are the front line face of to the consumer market. So they might have better knowledge. So they may not be coinciding with the manufacturer's thoughts. So that's a cause of a conflict, right? Beer industry, the beverage industry generally face this issue a lot. Intermediates dependence on manufacturers. So the fortunes of many dealers, the survival of many dealers depends on the manufacturer. In those circumstances, the channel conflict will arise a lot, because your survival as a retailer is totally dependent on how good products or bad products the organization comes up with, how much money they spend on marketing, such that consumers are aware of the products and they come to you. Those matters a lot. So these are the four causes of channel conflict. Like, how do you uh, you know how do you manage these conflicts though? There are a variety of ways, like strategic justification. This is like convincing, making clear cut distinctive segments, and that do not compete with the other, like making a proper justification, saying that this is it, in order to reduce the potential conflict, this is what we're going to do. Okay. Dual compensation pays existing channels for sales made through new channels too. Like, just because you're going to lose some money for us, because we added a new channel, we're going to pay you part of what we sell through the new channel as well. Superordinate goals, they can come with to an agreement where the fundamental goal they are jointly seeking, where the survival, the market share, and the high quality of customer satisfaction, meaning making sure that we all have the same goals, right? Or at least exchange. So those are some of the strategies that you can use. There are many more. Please read it at your convenience. One aspect that is not covered here, or kind of muddled in the lot of coverage, is consistent pricing. Going back to the previous chapter, pricing to the ultimate consumer, or the cost to the ultimate consumer, is the biggest reason for any channel conflict, right? If the price is consistent, if the margin on the product is consistent across different channels, the chance of if the margin of if the margins for different channel members is consistent across, the chance of conflict reduces. Dilution and cannibalization. This is some of the things that are suggested to avoid. Like, do not dilute your brand. The less this. I don't think this is typically a channel issue, because this is more of a branding issue. So, like, the marketers need to be careful, right, not to dilute their brands across multiple different types of channels. Like Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, they both took a big hit uh, when they started selling everywhere and anywhere. And another brand which took a big value hit is Brooks Brothers. When they started selling through some of these online retail channels, they took a hit because of the price competition, and also lot of they. Although it looks like a same channel, but it's a different channel per se, is through their outlet stores. They took a value in their channel. Again, the reason for Brooks Brothers taking a hit is also depends on the price, because they gave too many promotions. Finally, the legal and ethical issues in channel relations. The companies, they're generally free to develop whatever arrangement suits them, right? Having said that, again, it depends on channel power. Whoever has the higher power, they kind of lead that. Exclusive arrangements are legal as long as they do not, significantly lessen competition or tend to create a monopoly. And as long as both parties enter into them voluntarily, that's the exclusive problem. It's interestingly enough, it is an exclusive problem. Exclusive dealing often includes exclusive territorial arrangements. So if you as a retailer got exclusivity, you're actually paying a premium, because you know you may the organization may also demand you not to sell other things, competitive products. It's a problematic area. So you get the territorial arrangements, like nobody else is going to sell in this area at all. If a producer tries to keep a dealer from selling outside its territory, it can become a major legal issue. Okay. Producers of strong brand sometimes sell it to dealers only if they will take some or all of the rest of the line. So meaning, it's sometimes a stronger brands. This stronger brands, they do full line forcing. Such types are not necessarily illegal, but they do violate US law if they tend to lessen the competition substantially. That's problem. The producers free to select their dealers, but their right to terminate is somewhat restricted. You just cannot take and hire and fire at your convenience. In general, they can drop dealers only for a cost and not otherwise. Okay, that concludes your chapter 17. Good luck.